Hey, what is up mortals? It is SBurkVA here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 9 of What If Deku Had a Regen Quirk. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. And so, we begin. Midoriya looked at the time and realized that he was about to miss his train. He took a seat with a huff and bounced his leg anxiously the whole ride. He arrived in Hosu City and he walked down the city streets before stopping in front of the building he was looking for, Miruko's hero agency. Hey, you're the kid I ordered! Miruko's upbeat voice echoed throughout the agency's lobby. She excitedly grabbed Midoriya's hands and shook them with enthusiasm and surprising amounts of strength. I love your performance at the sports festival. You got spunk, kid. You remind me of how I was at your age. Midoriya replied shyly. Thank you so much for requesting me. I'm a big fan, and I know that I can learn a lot from you. Well, what are you waiting for? Let's go out on patrol. Unfortunately for Midoriya, without the power of One For All, his speed was greatly reduced. He was faster than most people, sure, but not on the same level as Miruko. Midoriya panted heavily as he collapsed onto the ground. Miruko was too fast for him to keep up with her. The sun had long past set at this point, and life in the city was starting to die down. He ducked into an alleyway to catch his breath as he checked his pockets for his phone. Damn it! I left it back at the agency. Midoriya rested his back against the alleyway's cold brick wall and he slid to the ground. His breathing started to return to its regular pace, but he took a couple more moments to relax. He'd spent the entire day chasing after the hero he was interning for. He deserved a break. He sighed as he closed his eyes and listened to the city sounds of cars racing, wind singing, and distant footsteps of pedestrians. While absorbing the sounds around him, Midoriya felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up as he felt the undeniable presence of approaching danger. His eyes shot open and he fell over to his side as a throwing knife lodged into the wall right where his head once was. Midoriya scrambled to his feet and backed up further down the alleyway. The darkness only grew as he descended further down the path, but he felt a presence that forced him into the back wall. He couldn't see who it was, but he most definitely could feel their presence. It was a sharp aura of malice, but mixed in was a sturdy foundation of justice. Midoriya's back hit the wall, and the presence kept approaching him with no sign of hesitation. Midoriya, at this point, was shaking in fear, and he was beating himself up for not doing anything to protect himself. He was a hero for crying out loud, and now he's just letting himself be mugged in the middle of the night? With a newfound feeling of resolve, Midoriya started running towards the dangerous aura that cornered him. He felt like he was in a thick crimson fog, and every fiber of his being was telling him to escape. But then, like Midoriya often does, he fell. He looked behind him to see that his Achilles tendon had been sliced and the knife responsible was on the floor next to him. So it wasn't exactly a regular fall. Midoriya reached toward the knife in an attempt to have something to protect himself, but an arm wrapped in bandages grabbed it first. For a split second, Midoriya felt an electric shock jolt across his entire body, but soon the sensation passed. Midoriya scrambled to his feet and turned to face the presence that had attacked him. He was engulfed in shadows, but Midoriya could still see that his facial features had been deformed. He was armed to the teeth with blades and spikes, and specks of dried blood covered his dark clothing. He held the knife that had sliced him up to his mouth, and Midoriya resisted the urge to gag when he saw the man licking the blood off of it. The man suddenly spoke in a sharp tone. Do you have some sort of nullification quirk? Most heroes would be paralyzed, begging for their lives right now. The man's quirk may not be effective on Midoriya, but his mere presence was enough to make him stand paralyzed in fear. Midoriya remained standing in a defensive stance, unsure of what to do next. What he did know was that he shouldn't reveal his quirk to the man that is trying to kill him. Then it clicked. The weapons he was using. The way he had tried to paralyze him. Izuku had run into the goddamn hero killer himself. Izuku pleaded. Please, let me go, let me go. I'm just a student, I didn't do anything to you, so please. The man laughed and pointed a knife at Midoriya's chest. You're not just a student. You're a hero student. Just some wannabe kid who wants to be rich and famous. As he spoke, the knife he held dug deeper and deeper into Midoriya's ribcage. He felt blood starting to seep into the cloth of his costume. Midoriya had chosen the color of his hero costume to be this specific shade of red to cover up his blood, and at least it was working as designed. Izuku replied, That's not true! I want to save people, with a smile on my face. The man's face remained stoic, but Midoriya sensed that he liked the answer he gave. The man asked, "Like All Might?" Midoriya paused but answered, "Well, not exactly. I don't really know anymore." Midoriya hadn't talked to All Might since the incident after the sports festival. He knew that he still respected All Might as a hero and a person, but the secrecy and lack of transparency had left a bad taste in his mouth. After a moment passed, the man asked, "You don't even feel pain, do you?" Hearing this, Midoriya looked down and saw that the knife had embedded itself several inches into his chest cavity, and he didn't even notice. The man twisted the weapon before pulling it back out, then once again consumed the blood on the blade. The hero killer nodded again and said, "I see." The man was quick as lightning as his hand reached to grab the hood on Midoriya's costume, and he flipped it up. The two strands on the hood stood tall and proud, mimicking the number one hero's hairstyle, and the man gave Midoriya a genuine yet still creepy smile. "You really are an All Might fanboy, huh?" Midoriya nodded hesitantly. He was planning to remove the All Might references from his costume, but he's glad that it saved his life this one time. Satisfied, the man returned his weapon to its holster. The man looked deep into Midoriya's emerald eyes, and it felt like he was somehow reading his soul. The hero killer finally spoke. "You have the heart of a true hero in there. But you're holding yourself back, I see it in your eyes." Despite the very dangerous situation Midoriya was in, he couldn't help but feel the tension in the air die down. The hero killer seemed to only be after fake heroes, while sparing those he deemed worthy. Midoriya could probably run and the man wouldn't stop him, but what he was saying had him intrigued. Against his better judgment, Midoriya asked, What do you mean?" "You've quite the overpowered quirk, but you're not using it to its fullest potential. There's something in your mind that's causing you to hold back." "Potential? My quirk doesn't have any room to grow, it just heals whatever is damaged. I can't do anything but be a glorified punching bag for villains like you." "Villain? I'd say I'm more of a vigilante, myself. But I'll let that slide this time." The hero killer pointed a finger at Midoriya's forehead and said, "The only one holding yourself back is you." "Oh, okay. How do I stop, though?" "Only you know the answer, but I can help, if you're willing." Midoriya had no idea what to do next. He had almost been killed by a serial killer and possible cannibal, and now said killer is giving him hero advice. Midoriya knew that he was always beating himself up over things that were out of his control, though, so the man did have a point. Midoriya thought about the people that had helped him so far. All Might had seen something in him when he was chosen to hold One for All, even if it didn't work out in the end. Miruko chose him as an intern because she saw something within him that he didn't see. And now a villain that specifically kills heroes is offering to help him become a better one. Midoriya had already sacrificed so much about himself in hopes of becoming a hero that can save people. So why not throw morals into the mix? "Yeah, sure. I want to learn how to be a better hero." The hero killer reached out his hand. "You can call me Stain." Midoriya took his hand and shook it. "I'm Ultimatum." A week passed, and Midoriya walked into the Miruko Hero Agency as if he hadn't missed the entirety of his internship. "Ultimatum? What the hell happened to you?" Miruko shouted. "I got into so much trouble since I lost you. Where did you go?" "The hero killer kidnapped me." This video is sponsored by NordVPN. Staying safe online is an ever-growing difficulty, and hackers could exploit you. NordVPN allows you to change your IP address, making you harder to track, securing your privacy. In addition to providing you with safe passage through the web, you can also expand the reach of your favorite streaming services. Are you tired of going through 2, 3, or even 4 streaming services to watch your favorite anime? Well, with NordVPN, you can change your country and be able to binge shows like My Hero Academia, Naruto, and many others on your favorite streaming service with just the press of a button. Check out the link in the description and get 72% off when buying for 2 years at $3.29 a month. This deal is for a limited time. And thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. 1 week prior... Where are we? This place is a mess. Midoriya's voice echoed throughout the empty and dilapidated apartment he found himself in. The entire building was abandoned and crumbling apart, but the various decorations and furniture pieces gave it a sense of feeling like home. Watch it, kid, Stain warned. The man led Midoriya to a door covered in photos of heroes, some of which had red X's over their faces and various darts dead center on their foreheads. When he opened it, Midoriya gasped. The room had various weapons ranging from spears to whips and swords, essentially every handheld weapon type there was. The man smiled proudly at his collection and led his mentee into the room. Midoriya couldn't help but run his fingers across the blade of a samurai sword and poke the spike of a mace. The weapons were so sharp that barely any pressure was enough to draw blood. You and me, we got quirks that are basically useless for offense. We need extra help from weapons to get the job done. So go ahead, take your pick. Midoriya looked like a kid in a candy shop. He poked and prodded at every weapon there was without ever having a clue what kind of weapon he wanted. He decided to try out the biggest and most dangerous looking one there was, a battle axe. Stain led Midoriya up to the rooftop of the building and the two stood on opposite ends. The hero killer had given Midoriya the basics on how to hold and use the weapon, but it seemed like it wasn't enough. The weapon was too top-heavy for Midoriya to efficiently use. Stain was light on his feet and agile. Once Midoriya started to move his weapon to strike, his opponent was already moved into another position. So maybe the battle axe wasn't quite the right weapon. And so the rest of the night was filled with failed attempts at finding what weapon best suited Midoriya's style. His aim wasn't sharp enough for throwing knives, bow and arrows, or handheld guns. Bulky weapons left him too vulnerable to counterattacks, and he wasn't fast enough to use close-range weapons like daggers or gauntlets. The sun was starting to rise when Midoriya chose his next weapon. It was a pair of katanas whose grips were worn and faded. It looked like they weren't used in a couple of years, but he could tell that they were used a lot in the past. On one of the scabbards was the name Stendhal, engraved on the side. Stain quickly covered the name with his hand as he carefully removed the katanas from their sheaths. Despite the old condition, it looked like the curved blades were restored to their prime. The hero killer gave Midoriya basic advice on how to use the weapons, and they felt much easier to use than any of the previous ones. They were light and easy to maneuver quickly, and their length reached about 3 feet away. It felt as though they sliced through the air each time he did a practice slice. Once familiarized with the weapon, he readied himself for what felt like the 100th fight that day. Stain was just as quick as he was at the beginning of the night. His attack patterns remained unpredictable. Instead of analyzing his opponent, though, Midoriya was learning how to fight based on instinct alone. The hero killer's every move could branch out to dozens of possible paths. Midoriya's carefully crafted hero costume was now in tatters from strikes of Stain's blades. Blood and sweat soaked into the crimson fabric. The katanas fixed Midoriya's problem of not being fast enough to reach his opponents, as now he could keep a good distance away from attacks while being able to land some. Of course, Stain was much more proficient with his katanas, but Midoriya felt a better connection to his weapons than he did with any of the other ones he used that night. Midoriya had as of yet to land a single strike against Stain, so he was surprised to see when one of his attacks actually landed. The hero killer backed up, so Midoriya thrust his weapon forward and stopped before stabbing Stain's chest. Not bad, kid. I think we found your weapon. And so for the rest of the week, Stain had taught Midoriya everything he knew. Midoriya was a fast learner and a hard worker, so he trained until his body collapsed out of exhaustion to master weapons. He spent his nights thinking about his morals and values to solidify the type of hero he wanted to be. He did a lot of self-reflection and tried to understand what people kept seeing in him. The physical training had helped his quirk learn to heal injuries faster, but he didn't really know what potential he was missing out on. It was the 6th day of Midoriya's internship in Hosu when Stain approached him. I think you already know what your quirk can truly do. Or at least you don't realize that you know. The hero killer held a single sword in his hand as he slowly approached his student. Midoriya began backing up as his instincts told him to run. The aura emanating off of Stain wasn't one of malice, but it was filled with the undeniable feeling of murderous intent. Midoriya grabbed one of his katanas from the scabbard on his back, and he attempted a downward strike. Stain had blocked the attack with his blade, and he knocked the weapon out of Midoriya's hands. The last thing he saw was a blade going straight through his chest. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in all this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has got you covered. Our We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details can be found in the description below. And lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, then I'd like to extend you an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being that we only accept members from 16 years and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching, and have a great day.